guys, so welcome again to my YouTube channel, and today we are going to be seeing what is expected of you in the first milestone of this project, the title Victory Management System or Victory Membership System. We are going to see a brief introduction of the first 3 chapters or the first 4 chapters up to system design. That is where milestone 1 is up to. So we are going to go step by step in each of the stages and be seeing what is expected. So with me I have the question paper. So without wasting time, let's jump into it together. So sit back, relax and enjoy the show. So we are going to be seeing it from the beginning. So we'll go with it step by step. So the first thing you have to know or remember that in your Form 3 coursework, you did mention something about the system development life cycle, and you had seen from your education that it involves 7 chapters. So this is basically what we are going to apply here. So we learned that a system is a collection of different entities that are usually independent, that work together to achieve a certain goal. So basically when I talk of a system, is such one of them. We are going to have to come up with different entities that are independent and they work together to achieve a specific goal. Now going to the question, this is a question, and for the first milestone, I said we are going up to the 4th chapter, that is system design. That involves designing the actual system that will solve this problem that we are given here. So to begin with the project, you are supposed to write it in Microsoft Access. That is a standard one for your level for writing this project. As you can see the instruction here, Microsoft Access is an example of a database management system that you are going to use to prepare your work. Both Microsoft Access and Microsoft Word, Microsoft Word for typing, and Microsoft Access for developing the actual system. So I'm going to take you through the first milestone, although for the first milestone there is no coding work much, but just typing. We'll be using Microsoft Word to show a demo of what is being expected, and we are told to answer the questions in English. So we can begin. So for the first milestone, you have to write it using Microsoft Word. So this is how you begin. You include the title of the system, your name, your school code, your index number, project title, year of examination, your school, and where you are submitting to. That is just an introduction page. Then you have a declaration part that you declare the work is yours, you did it alone, or something like that. And the date and the sign is, you will need this when you are submitting your work. This one is not filled in now. Then over here we have a student declaration or the supervisor declaration. This is basically where your teacher or your supervisor will declare the work that was done. He or she was the supervisor and more. So you have to write a small statement there. Then here you fill in the supervisor's name, the date, and the supervisor's signature. Then the dedication is where you talk about what the people that you like to dedicate the project to. In this case, it can be your parents, it can be your teachers, it can be your friends, it can be a Victory school, wherever you can or whoever you can like to dedicate to. Then we have the acknowledgement. This one are the person you like to thank, maybe for the success of the project, or for teaching you, or for taking you through, or for guiding you. You can as well acknowledge them here. As you can see here, I have some expressions. Express my sincere gratitude to my supervisors, and emulate your teacher's name. Maybe some other people you can acknowledge. You also fill them here, and also thank your school for maybe introducing computer studies in your school and maybe enabling you to tackle such a project. So after that, you have your table of contents. This is I'm telling you now up to chapter 4. We'll go all the way to system, then system security. That's where the fourth chapter ends. We have flow charts, input design, tables design, form design, output design. Within here is an outline. Chapter 1 is problem recognition and definition. We introduce you to carry out a system analysis. You define the problem. You have again to examine what the whole system is functioning, or what are its features. Then you can have its structure maybe, and you say some limitations that they are encountering due to how they are doing their work. Then you have to tell us the overview of your proposed system, this victory system. Then you have the objectives. Now you start with the overview of it, then we go to its objectives, benefits of what benefits will we realize by using this new system. And you have the scope of the system, what will it do. Then cost and benefits analysis. In other words, we can call that feasibility study. Then we have information gathering as the second chapter. Then summary of fact finding. We'll dig into that in just a moment. Then we go to chapter 3, system requirements and specification. We majorly consider these three: the software, the functional, and the non-functional. Then we go up to the fourth chapter, system flowchart, input design. For the system flowchart, I'm not going to tackle it here, but I'm going to give some tips about how it should be done. But I'm going not to show you I'm not going to show how mine looks like. But I'm going to give some tips on how you should come up with one. Then we have input design, tables design, form design, output design that involves reports, and then lastly we will cover general system security. So we can begin with, if we look at this question here, we are told Victory School is a school that is offering some co-curricular activities besides the formal curriculum. So besides education, we have co-curricular activities too, and we are given some examples of these co-curricular activities that include clubs and societies. And we are further told that societies refers to organized groups formed within the school to engage students in the areas of interest. Maybe it might be your hobbies, talents, or any other area of interest that is not related to academia. Then these clubs and societies are student-led and provide a platform for students to come together and pursue shared interests and hobbies. As further information that is following, then we are told that the school offers for the following clubs. So we are given the clubs that are offered: we have debating, chess, science, mathematics, drama, music, writing, environmental, computer science, photography, and agriculture. Then we are further told that when a student is admitted in the school, he or she is required to register to be a member of one or more clubs. So if we register you, or if you come to the school, you are required first to register, then you can be registered as a member of a new club or join another one. Then details of the new member, which includes admission number, your name. These are basically the details you provide during registration, just like you do when joining us a new school. And we are told that the school has 4 streams, namely East, North, South, and West. Then class is identified by its stream. So from Form 1 up to Form 4, there are the 4 streams. We are told that a new member joining a club is required to pay a non-refundable fee, which varies. So we are given the charges for the different clubs. Then we are further told that membership in a club is classified in the following categories based on members' roles. We have the regular, general, we have executive, or the leaders. Then we are further told that they are responsible for guiding club's activities, making decisions, and coordinating events. Please note that, or it is also worth to know that only the leaders have this functionality or these responsibilities, but for the general members, they only perform core activities of the club and attend or meet they are scheduled. Then we further to that each club in the school is assigned a patron who is a teacher. So each club has a patron who is supposed to be registered as a teacher. Then the responsibilities of the patron we are given there. Then we are further told that at the beginning of each academic year, a student may join an existing club as a new member or exit a club provided that he or she is a member of at least a club. So that simply means that if we come to a new academic year, if you are previously in one club, you can either join another one or leave the one that you are. If you are in a music club, the next academic year, you can either join another club, maybe mathematics, and leave, or leave that one that you are in. At the beginning of each year, there is a given information we are given there. Then we are told that any member in leadership position who wishes to exit from a club must clear with the club's patron. If you are a leader and you'd like to clear, maybe by shifting to another club or just quitting, but you have to clear with the patron. And we are told that each club should carry out one revenue generating activity to support its other club activities. Details of the activity, which includes the name, date of occurrence, amount corrected, must be provided. So every time you are carrying out an activity, all this data must be provided. So for example, in the debate we are given such an example. These are basically the activity names that you will have to provide as the details of the activity. And you are given an important statement. Out of the total revenue generated from clubs activities, registration fee and the registration fees, 50% of that of the activities and the fees is allocated to supporting the club's activities. Then 30% is allocated to organizing the club's annual parties or outings outside the school. Then the balance, that is the 20% that is remaining from here, is saved for the club. Then the school will support these annual parties. Remember, there were 30% of the here we are told that 30% is allocated to organizing the club's annual parties. Now 30% of the club's activities and registration fees. Now something to know that is this 70% we are given here is the 30% that was allocated. So if club's activities and registration fee was 30%, the government will pay, and not the government, but the school will support by paying 70% of this 30% that was allocated. So I hope that is clear. Then we are told 70% of the amount allocated for the activity or the event. So that is basically how it is going. We are told to develop a database management system along with accompanying documentation. This is why I was telling you we will basically need to use Microsoft Access for this purpose and Microsoft Word for typing the documentation. But for the first milestone, we will be measuring with this. Then to support the club's operation, the system, we are given the task that it should do, store and manage details of schools and etc. All these ones. Although these ones are basically when you come to milestone 2, that's when you implement this, but you still have to consider them in the first milestone. So we can start with the first chapter and see what is going or what is expected. So you can also get a copy of this documentation or this milestone. My number is over there in the description of this video. You can reach out in case you'd like to acquire a copy of this first milestone, and also for the full project. It's now available officially. So you can reach out to us through the number in the description below. Then we can now start with the first chapter, that is problem recognition and definition. So let us go through it and see what is expected of us. In this first chapter we have basically we start with the introduction. As you can see here, this chapter 1 entails problem recognition and definition. And this is usually a stage in the SDLC where you recognize the problem, break it down, and try to see how you can maybe decide to develop a computerized system, and what would be its benefits, what are its. Maybe you can also tell us the limitations of the existing system that could convince us to change that old system to the new computerized one. So with me here, basically this is the statements that we are given in the question paper as seen here. So this is just what you try to break down here. You say it's an initiative, the Victory School, which of us require a wide range of co-curricular activities within the formal curriculum. This is basically what we did in the you just have to look at this question, the one that you are given here, try to analyze it and break it down, and maybe recognize the problem that is over here. Then after that you have to again carry out your system analysis, although this one might sound similar to system analysis as chapter 4, although chapter 4 deals with the design, but here we'll just deal with the analysis. We start with the problem definition. We define the problem now. Now we have this part was just an introduction, just telling us how Victory School does its services generally and what they do. So here we define the problem. We start by what is our aim. This project aims to develop a computerized system. In this case you define the problem now. Yeah, and the problem here maybe includes solving these issues. We have maintaining new member details, storing and managing school clubs and their patrons. There's some problems. Maybe we store and manage student membership information, including rules in clubs. Store and manage. Now this part we define the problem. What is the problem? Is it adding new members? Is it storing and managing data? That is something that needs to be solved. That is what I mean. So also tracking members who join and leave a club, still something that must be solved. Generating reports, something that you must still solve. Compute the savings for each and every club, something that you still have to solve. Then at last here we have the system should be documented to provide key instructions for its use and maintenance. Then after you are done with your problem definition, after you define your problem at hand here and what are the major problems that you need to solve, you come and you have to examine the old system. For instance, they are using a manual one, so you have to tell us what are they using for their current operations, if they are registering members or students to clubs, if they are managing club activities, what are they using, because they can still not be using the computerized system, or they might not yet start using it. So what we mean by overview of the existing system is just an overview brief or it involves you telling us how is the school carrying out its functions. If they are offering club activities in societies or clubs and societies, how do they do it? Do they do it by filling them on papers and maybe filling them on or filing them in files, or what do they do? So then after that you have to tell us the existing system. How does it look like? If for instance you have member registration, you have to tell us how is it done. There is just a structure of how the whole system looks like. When they are students, their details maybe have to record their data. There is the admission, name, class, and among other details, and tell us how it is done. Is it done manually on paper and filed? Again, this is a limitation because if you have the files getting lost or getting misplaced or getting destroyed, that data will be very much affected. It is very difficult to retrieve such data. You can have membership in clubs, then you tell us how do members register for the club in this existing system. For this case, I choose to say it was usually done manually by visiting the school's administration. Again, this, as you can see, is very much tedious because you can imagine if people are coming from far and maybe want to register for membership in clubs. Again, there is a cost, and it might be inefficient because you might go to school and maybe find the administration is busy and can't register you, or maybe find the office is closed. Or another challenge you can face is that you can get a long queue still. Maybe other students are applying like you, so you have to again sit down and wait for your turn. Then another thing, as you know, if you are registering for membership, you are required to pay a fee that is usually non-refundable for that particular job, or not job but club. So it means that you have to be registered for a particular club, and now it can be very much difficult to maintain these records or to store those details of payment. Then you have activity recording. In this case, you can try to explain to us what was the process they were using to maybe keep track of activities, record them. You can mention them here. In this case, you can say like club leaders and guides. Now the club leaders whose roles are to guide the activities, making decisions and coordinating events. You can say maybe they were doing so manually on books. For instance, if we want to retrieve a certain activity we are going to do, we have to check it manually, check it from the book. Now that one could be a disadvantage. That one could be a disadvantage because that manual nature of data recording in books, it could be unfortunate if the books went lost or are misplaced or are stolen. So it would very much affect these records. Then you have record keeping. Here you just explain how the school maybe organizes itself in terms of maintaining records about club details, events planning, member promotions or demotions, management of members, the club activities, the registration fees, how do they figure out the annual party fees, club savings, and the overall income. You can say maybe manually by traditional books or papers on pieces of paper, and then they would store that data in files, or they would file it. And you can say the manual system is not efficient and is usually prone to errors due to maybe its manual nature. But it depends on your existing system structure, how you define that or how you came up with that. But for us, it is surely efficient to mention about a manual system, and you can have the overview of your proposed system. Now this one is just an overview of what are you thinking. Maybe you can talk about what is your aim, maybe to improve the management and recording of transactions within the schools. That involves the clubs and societies. You say it will automate the collection of storage and information, about school members, the clubs and society. It will also store membership data and transactions. And you can tell us, or you can mention that the system will be designed to efficiently handle processes such as tracking all income or club revenue, activity engagements, and complete club activities, those activities that are done, the incomplete ones, and maybe savings of the club. Then you can tell us that additionally the system will generate accurate and up-to-date reports. Now that one will typically mean it has to give output of day-to-day activities within the school and the clubs, also showing the income, school's financial status, financial summaries of the clubs, and maybe other transactions. And also mention the system will be user friendly, and it will allow the members to use it very much with ease without maybe further training. In the case you have to also mention data security and privacy, which will be a key consideration. Then after you are done with that, you can go to the objectives of your proposed system, and you can maybe highlight objectives. Now maybe it can be a clear idea of what is the system intended for. Maybe to provide a centralized database to store information about student data, clubs and societies that are available in the school, membership details and the transactions. Now if you have a centralized database, it will be very much efficient in data storage, because we are not going to use different books maybe like they were using before. Use different books to maybe record these transactions on the case. Then you have to automate and streamline the process of tracking members who join a river club at the beginning of an academic year. If we did so using manual ways, this task would be nearly impossible to track members who join a river club at the beginning of an academic year. You see, now using a computerized system, it can be very much easier to join a river club at the beginning of each year, because a system can be automated to do that. Then to provide real-time information about the school financial transactions, including income, service fees, activity collection fees, and some other financial records such as savings, school's contribution, and the like. And in this case, it's you have to mention that. Then you can also mention improvement and the accuracy of information, because again we are using computers to automate these tasks, so you know very well characteristics of computers. They are accurate and efficient. So in this case, they can help the club to be more efficient and accurate in their recording of the data and carrying out their transactions. Then to offer user-friendly interface that enables patrons and members to access and maybe manage the club with very much ease. Then to provide a data security and privacy features to protect sensitive data about the school members and transactions. This one typically means we are adding authorization methods to the user. Then can have enabled generation of accurate and up-to-date reports on club transactions. This is just a characteristics. They can generate reports according to maybe transactions, and maybe to support the overall goal of the company in being the leading club nurturing school in Kenya, by providing a comprehensive solution for club management and their operations. This can be like what this system will aim to do. Then you have the benefits of your system. In this case, what benefits will we realize when we start using this system? In this case, you can give some benefits like improved accuracy, enhanced speed in generating reports, because In this case, if it's manual, obtaining the data from manual books or files is time consuming. Then coming up with the reports to maybe print or do something like that, it can be very much time consuming. But with this system, there is a speed in generating of these reports. Then there is simplification in the process of computing totals, and maybe reducing the taxes for and this is not taxes, but this should be savings. Also typing error here, savings for the club. Then reducing the risk of errors and increasing reliability in financial reporting. Now in this case, you can say improved security of data through the use of a secure database system. Those are some of the benefits you can mention. You can also tell us there can be better decision making because of availability of accurate and up-to-date information. Then you can also have improved transparency and accountabilities of the club's financial transactions. And you can, after that, after you are doing the benefits of the system, you can go to the scope. Now, this one you can briefly describe what the system will include. It includes member registration and management in this case. That will provide a secure and efficient way of registering members, capturing their registration data, and managing information for future reference. Then there is a club registration fee collection, record keeping, reporting, generation of reports, and you can give others, but maybe these are the major ones. And in summary, you can say the proposed system will give or provide a comprehensive automated solution for managing the various activities and operations of Victory School Club. In this case, you can now go to cost and benefits analysis. Although this one is usually not a major consideration, but you can decide to carry out some cost analysis. For you can usually go to the what you call a feasibility study. So, and you have to tell its purpose. Feasibility is usually to evaluate the potential success of developing this system. And for the feasibility, we usually consider 4 types of feasibility. There's economic feasibility, technical feasibility, there is also schedule feasibility, there's also the last one, operational feasibility. For the economic one, you have to consider the financial potential of those who are going to write this system. So you can tell us the financial feasibility of the system was assessed through a cost-benefit analysis. So you can tell us the estimated cost for the system development. That includes the hardware, software, and personal costs. Maybe you can tell us the cost of, maybe if you needed to purchase more software, hardware, or something like that, you can maybe tell us. So in this case, it will be evaluated against the estimated benefits of the system, including but in this case, you can mention the benefits of this study. If it can lead to reduced manual effort, improved data accuracy, or if we purchase more hardware and software, the benefit that would be realized, and maybe also increasing the operational efficiency. Then you can also go to technical feasibilities, where you examine the technology infrastructure of your devices. If, for instance, you took a review and saw that the computers are using very much old hardware, so you can maybe as well tell us that you will purchase more hardware, or more hardware will be needed to be purchased, and also other technological things to consider for the development of these things. If your machine has an old operating system, you can mention that you need to upgrade it, and also this software, it will require installation. If not, it can need to purchasing if needed. Then you can do also something called operational feasibility. And for the operational feasibility, it aims to assess those who are operating the system in this case. Yeah, are they skilled enough to start this development? They have the necessary skills to maybe use it. So you can also inform us about that one. If maybe some of the users need some training, you can also inform us here, and also give us the cost again for doing that. Then there is another one that is usually important here, I have not mentioned. There is a schedule feasibility. In this case, schedule feasibility is usually very much important. It tries to explain if you agreed, all of you agreed to write the project in 7 months, what are the resolutions that you are going to make, or what are you going to do? Maybe how much often will you be tracking your progress? What will you be doing to make the project a success in the 7 months? So that one is another type of feasibility you can also mention. So this one is just some dummy data. I'm not going to talk about that. It's not very much important, but it's still crucial. But we can come to conclude and say, based on the result of the feasibility, it can be concluded that the development is technically, financially, and operationally feasible. So you can this basically means, or typically means, that after the feasibility, you can now start the development of this system, because the cost analysis has been done and quite. Then we go to the second chapter, that is information gathering. This one typically means the methods that you use to know how this system works, or how the school works, how do crabs operate, how does the patron operate, how do crab leaders operate. There's some methods of data collection that you can use. You could use surveys, you could use interviews, you could observe or administer questionnaires as well. So it depends on the methods of data that you are going to use. Now something good to mention: every data method that you use, you can also mention its limitations and maybe its advantages of using that method. For instance, if you use the interviews, an interview is something that you normally write or prepare questions and maybe give or administer it to one of the workers or one of the leaders or one of the patrons in the school, and as they answer you can be noting down their answers according to that question that you asked. Then that information you will use in developing your system. When it comes to system design, that information that you obtained is the one that you will obviously use or need in your oncoming stages. Then you can also observe. Maybe you can manually or you can physically go to the school and maybe wait for time for clubs and maybe observe how they operate or how they carry out that activity of clubs. Yeah, so after you observe, you can be maybe noting down, maybe taking photos or videos or something like that. But observation is just observing, see how they do it. And also you can include other methods such as maybe photo and video recording, something of that sort. Then also you can mention something about questionnaires. Now for questionnaires, these are usually some sample questions that you prepare with the corresponding choices. Now that the user has to and the user usually has to choose one of those choices, or maybe one or more. It depends on your setup questionnaires also are a major thing to consider. And you can also tell us their benefits, also tell us their its limitations and what have you. So then after you've chosen your data collection methods, you can maybe choose to interviews and questionnaires, interviews and surveys and observations. So after you've chosen that and given a summarized data of you can also as well write that data below here. If you prepared a questionnaire, you can maybe draw it here and maybe give the questions that you gave to the user or to the person that you gave the questionnaire to. Also for interview, you can draft your questions here. Maybe you can just draw a shape, a rectangle, then do so by inserting a table with maybe 2 columns, one for the question and one for the response. And you can include a title, the name of the interviewer, the interviewee, and the date, and maybe the venue. Then you can do so by just leaving a couple questions there, and the user will answer them as appropriate. Then you can say after that you can say the corrected data will be verified and cleansed to ensure it is accurate and complete. If there was some missing information, maybe you might decide to go back to that school and obtain it. Now you can also mention the ways that you use to verify and clean information. Can be involved checking for inconveniences, correcting errors, and removing duplicates. Maybe if there was some repeated questions with the same answers, you can maybe remove them. Then you can mention that finally the data was entered into the database system using Microsoft Access and organized into tables. Now the data that you collected, but this one does not mean that if you collected data you go directly and enter it. So but there is a stage you come to see in the 4th chapter. There is a grouping of variables. Now you obtain data, you group your variables, and now you can organize them into tables for efficient and effective retrieval and analysis. So after that you can give a conclusion of the methods that you use to collect data, and you can say that the data verification, cleansing, and organization was successful again. Then you can give a summary of the fact-finding methods. This one basically means what can you summarize, or what did you see from the data gathering phase or information gathering phase. And this one usually means, or typically entails, maybe what did you see about their current system or how they do their activities. You can maybe mention quite a few of them. I did mention 4. Then after that you can go to conclusion and say after this data was found, it is necessary to write a computerized system. So that is the 2nd chapter, not much. Then for the 3rd chapter, here you will be needed to specify the requirements of the system. So chapter 3 entails system requirements and specification. So in this case we normally divide it into 3 broader categories. We have the hardware requirements, software requirements, and functional, although this one still non-functional is also a requirement specification, but normally you would focus on these 2 or maybe these 3. Maybe if you can mention about hardware requirements, if your devices are using an Intel Core i3 processor and maybe it's a 7th generation, you can specify that for them to run this system they will need this type of processor. If memory, for instance, is used, an 8 GB of memory or the random access memory. So if your device supports that, or if it used that, you can also specify that you used the same thing. A hard disk, you can say for you used a 1 terabyte hard disk, and also a keyboard you can also mention. But there usually has other specifications you can specify, like your device make or your computer make. If it's from Dell, or if, not make but a manufacturer, if it's used a Dell computer, you can also mention. If you used a Lenovo one, you can mention, or maybe a HP, you can as well mention it over here, and maybe some other hardware gadgets that you needed. If for instance you also used some printers, you can as well tell us that you used maybe the type of printer that you used. If it's a laser printer, an inkjet printer, or a diesel printer, you can mention that here. Then after mentioning all your hardware requirements, you have to again specify the software for them to use this system on their device. They can need, and they obviously need, an operating system that will manage the execution of the software. Then maybe you can specify maybe they require Windows 10 or later, or any other operating system of your choice, and the Linux or Ubuntu, but it depends on your design. But for this case we are assuming there is Windows that we are going to be using. Then obviously we require database management system in this case, because this system entails the use of databases, so they will typically need a database management system. Maybe it can be Microsoft Access, it can be Visual Basic.net or something else that you can use. But for this case, because ours, we were told to use Microsoft Access, so you can as well use this. Then programming language, the one that you use yourself. So in this case Microsoft Access supports the Visual Basic for Applications programming language. It is a very pretty much easy language to use, so they cannot have difficulties while using the system, maybe when troubleshooting and something like that with your code. Then you can also as well mention other things that you used, other softwares, maybe some antiviruses, maybe some application softwares, maybe antivirus used Kaspersky or something like that. You can also specify that here as well. Then you can have functional requirements. In this case you can tell us that what are the functioning requirements of the system. It could be able to maintain details of clubs, members, including their names, their admission numbers, the class, 3 mobiles, and the year of study. So this one typically means that you need to mention what the system function, what will it do, is what we are talking about here. Maybe maintaining records of activities that clubs engage in and what have you. Then maybe computing the total amount from clubs, registration fees, and all the finances that are involved. Then you can have the system being able to generate some reports. So that one typically means you have to tell us it's like the function of the system, what to be its requirements, or what is it expected to meet. So you can also mention some other non-functional requirements such as security of data, its performance, user friendliness. You have to consider some user friendliness so that you don't design an interface that is maybe inefficient for users. You have to consider some factors such as the color that you put, the font sizes, and the reviews, so that the users don't need to struggle a lot while using the system. Don't put too much bright colors that would at the user size while using and something like that. Then there is also scalability. Scalability means basically means if in the future things change, there's advancements in maybe technology, is your system going to adapt to these changes? So you can as well mention about scalability over there, and that is the third chapter. It's usually not a lot, but you can still add more points if you need to. But this basically is the requirements for this part. Then we can go to our fourth chapter. So fourth chapter, we have a system flowchart, we have grouping of variables, we have input design, and we have output design and general system security. So because I said for me the flowchart could not be visible for now, but I'll give some tips. So for the flowchart, you have to consider the symbols. Yeah, from the ellipse to start up there, there's the general flow. Maybe you can try to, if the system starts, the first thing you need to do is check for the existence of the user. Yeah, if the user is not registered or the student is not registered, you have to register them. Now you know very well that if they register, they are required to be a member of a club. So after registration, they will need to join a club. So you show that flow. Yeah, and be sure to use the correct symbols while doing it. What if the student is already registered? You do not need to re-register the person again. So you typically need to highlight that flow. If the student is already registered, it can go directly to maybe engaging in a club. Yeah, and what have you, and you also have to mention the part about maybe joining a new club, maybe quit leaving a club, maybe, or demotion by the club leaders. If they would like to leave a leadership of a club, maybe to join another club, you can also as well mention that. And you can have the symbols for storage, maybe to show that this data is being stored. You can have report symbols that maybe can show this system is generating some reports. So, and if you are using Microsoft Word, you can realize some of the flowchart symbols over here. There's maybe some on-page connectors, off-page connectors. This is the on-page connector, this is the off-page connector. You have to get the difference. Then be sure to maybe use the correct symbols to your reference. This one is the one I was saying storage. This one is usually denoted by a cylinder-like structure, meaning storage. Then we have the tabs, maybe for input, and these ones are the reports. These ones here, the reports that the system is going to generate. So this one is the decision. Yeah, this one is the ellipse I was saying, or the alternate process. Then this one is now the process itself. Then maybe terminators. There are very much symbols that you can maybe use. Then the manual input, you have all of them here. It decides on your, or it depends on your customization. Then you can connect them using these lines to maybe show a flow of how the system is going. So here's the general idea when it comes to designing flowcharts. Then you can go to the second part. There is a grouping of variables. Grouping of variables typically means you have to classify your data, and maybe into different entities. Now maybe if you can have, if these different entities, there's some interrelated data that they can possess. For instance, if you register to be a student in your school, you provided your name, your admission number, the date you joined in your class, and maybe some other information. Now that interrelated information that can be used to identify a student is also we're calling the grouping. So you can group your student ID, your admission number, your full name, class, and the date you joined into a single entity called the students group. So in this case you have to mention there is a unique identifier, there is a student ID which will be used to uniquely identify a student and what have you. Then you can also have clubs, all the data that is related to clubs. Clubs may be computer science club, maybe maths club, maybe a music club, or maybe some agricultural clubs there. You can as well group there all the data that is related to clubs, maybe the club ID, the club name, the registration fee, the patron name, and the join date. This one means that the patron joined that club. So all the data that you can use for identifying a club, and these ones are, if they are typically interrelated. So all these can be used to identify a club. You can come up with another group. Then you have activities from clubs, all the data that can be used to maybe save an activity, maybe an activity ID that acts as a unique identifier for each activity. Club ID in this case is usually a foreign identifier, because this club ID is the one that we added here, is the one that we are going to engage an activity with. So a foreign key is the one that we are going to use, and normally for foreign keys, a foreign key means there's a key in another table that matches the primary key of the primary table. Now if a club ID here matches this club ID over here, so when you come to relationships in this system, you can as well link those two and maybe enforcing some referential integrity such that you cannot enter a club ID that is not yet saved in the clubs table. So those are the things that we are going to be seeing that in the next video about a database. Then you can have your activity name, the amount collected, the date recorded, and the status, if that activity is financed or not yet. It is up to you to maybe jot that down. And then you can have your club finances, all the data that is related to finances of the club, maybe the finance ID. In this case will act as a unique identifier for each record that is being financed. Then you have club ID. In this case the club ID will identify that club by maybe how much money do they have, then total revenue you can obtain that, how much have they earned. Now this one typically means total revenue is maybe the registration fees and the amount that is currently collected. So you have to come up with a way to maybe compute this total revenue. Then there is annual parties allocation, the savings, school contributions, and also consider the percentages. If I could take you back, we are told that out of the total revenue generated from the club's activities and registration fees, 50% is allocated to supporting the club's ongoing activities. So the money that you as a club collected from activities, maybe you went to host some fundraising events, that money that you did collect, and plus the registration fees, now 50% of that total will be allocated in
supporting the club's ongoing activities. For instance, if you collected 20,000, 50% of that is going to support your other ongoing activities. If maybe you are selling club merchandise, so 50% will be used to support that activity. Then 30% of the 20,000 is again allocated to organizing the club's annual parties or outings outside the school. Then the balance is saved for the club. That is the 20% that is remaining from 850 plus 30 is the one that will be saved for the club. Then we are also told that the school supports club annual parties or outings by contributing 70% of the amount allocated for the activity. Now, if 30% is being split or is being allocated to annual parties, the school will contribute 70% of the 30%. If, for instance, the 30% allocated was 10,000, for instance, the school will contribute 70% of this amount of 10,000. So that is also all to note. Then you can have ongoing activities allocation, school contributions, so, and maybe some other things you can, or some other data that you can maybe decide to mention there. Then you can also have the membership entity. This one will typically, you can group that is related to members into these different entities. Maybe the membership ID, this maybe can be the primary identifier. The student ID is a foreign key of the student table. Club ID is again a foreign key. This identifies the club ID in the club's table with this one. Then you have the role. Are you a leader or are you regular? The date that you joined and the registration fees. So after grouping all those your entities, you can now come in and fill them into the tables, right? So if you come and fill into tables, that one falls under input design. Input design entails design of tables and forms. In this case, you can decide to start your table design by, in this case you don't, and please do not insert screenshots here. Screenshots are not required. You design your tables using this feature here, Microsoft Word inserting tables. You go to the insert tab, head to the insert tab, you can find this insert option here. You can see if I hover over the cursor there, it is creating a table here. Yeah, as you can see, it's creating a table. So for this one, you need a table that has 2 columns and a number of rows. So you basically go there and generate like this, depending on the number of rows and columns that you want. But obviously the columns will be to the field name and the corresponding data type. So you can come, the first table you design will be your student registration. You can give the field name and its corresponding data type, maybe class, a number that is 1, 2, 3 or 4, stream, one east, southeast, and what have you, your hobby, and the date that you registered and the status, if you are active or inactive, something like that. Then you can have the club's registration table. You have your club ID, club name, a fee, and the name of the patron, and maybe the join date. Then you can also have a membership table. Again, mention the fields and their corresponding data types, and don't confuse between data types. We'll be very much sure when dealing with that. You can have patrons table again. You can have the allocation, phone number, the patron name, their ID. That will be used to identify them, the patrons, and their corresponding when it comes to assigning them to clubs. You can have finances table, In this case, the finance ID, the club ID, total revenue, the annual parties allocation, savings, the school contribution, and ongoing activities. Again, you consider the data types as well. Don't confuse, and maybe come up with ways to calculate these. You can also have some activities table, maybe an activity, if you are adding an activity and its data type, the club ID that is being engaged, or the club that is being engaged in that activity, what is the name of the activity, the details was recorded, the amount collected from that activity, and the status, is it funded or unfunded. Then you can after that you go to form design. This again is still a similar process where you start now designing your user interface. Maybe like for me, I have my student registration form. You can have some buttons, some frames, some text boxes, and some labels too. In this case, you are still not allowed to insert screenshots. As you can see, for me, I'm using the shapes tools here to come up with my design. So again, you still have to follow a similar procedure. So you design all your forms, maybe the activities form, add your buttons, and the look of it. You can add as many forms as you want, but at least have 5 of them. You can design as many. Don't forget your text boxes, your labels, buttons, and any other thing that you need in your form when it comes to designing your forms. Also for the patrons, I can have such. So be very much sure not to go below the required number of forms. Then you have the output design. This one means that we are going to design our output. This one usually means designing reports, because they are basically used for output or maybe printing data from the database. If you said your system is capable of generating reports, you have to come and design them. Maybe you can come up with such structures. You can design your reports here. Maybe you can mention their fields or the data that they are going to store, and this one, you remember the grouped fields, the one that they are going to store. So in this case, after you are through with your design of your reports, you can design as well 5 or more. It depends on how you want to customize. Then lastly, we have the general system security. So this one is not a major concern, but the things you have to consider: the user authentication, access control, regular backupping, maybe just in case the computers have some issues. Will you have maybe a copy of the data that was previously saved on the machine? There is a physical security. There is the, you have to maybe protect the computer that is being used to store this data. You have to protect it from theft and what have you. Maybe by employing a restricted and unauthorized personnel. Maybe security updates, rising rules, updating of the system to maybe curb vulnerabilities and some what have you. Then you have monitoring and logging. You can constantly monitor the system performance, maybe to detect any suspicious behavior. And you have disaster recovery, if just in case you would like to recover your data, what are the ways that you maybe need to implement. Then user authentication, again I said, maybe you can lock your system, but in this case we do not need to. This is not an actual one, but in a real world you need to authenticate, maybe who can use the system and who can't. Then I can as well mention, by implementing these features, this ensures that the computer system is secure and protected from the data and information that it will store. So after this one, you can now go to your chapter 5. You've seen my outline of chapter 4. As for me, I have already completed this project. Again, I've said if you'd like to get a copy of the full project, can also or as well reach us out through the numbers given in the description of the video. So you can reach to us. The system is complete, so we'll cover these other 3 remaining chapters: the system construction. We have system implementation, the 6th chapter, and then lastly we have system review and maintenance as the last and 7th chapter. So that was basically what is required of you in this first milestone. I've outlined every step that you need to consider. Said if you would like a copy of this first full milestone, they are available. So you just need to reach us out with the contact in the description below, and you will be able to acquire yourself this copy. If you'd like this one of the full project of the database, it's still available. You can as well reach out to us. As you can see, my outline here, it outlines all these chapters just as they should be. So you can as well reach out to us. We'll be glad to help you in case you have any questions or need further assistance. We are always there. So that was the introduction about the first milestone and everything that you need to have. I'll be producing a second video about the database itself, and finally maybe the full project. So keep on doing or continuing this system, and again, that is all for today. More videos will be coming soon, so thank you for watching. Stay tuned.